Today we are talking about the intersection between two of our favorite things, run training and travel. When we are on a trip, what can we do to continue running, enjoy the experience, and get the most out of our runs? All of that and more with today's coaches. And we're joined by professional triathlete and coach Elizabeth James. She's been coaching runners and triathletes since 2014. And also on the show, we have Coach Stephen Horan from Iron Mind Endurance. He has been competing in running and triathlons for over 30 years and has done 20 plus marathons and 20 plus Ironman finishes. Crazy. Stephen has been coaching distance runners since 2005 and is also a co-owner of Fleet Feet Hickory Running Store. And I'm Carrie, Olympian broadcaster, and your guide to the world of RunDot. We treat the show like any good workout. We'll start with a warm-up question, settle into our main set conversation, and then wind things down by having our coaches answer an audience question on the cool down. Lots of good stuff today, so let's get after it.
This is the RunDot podcast, the running show that brings you world-class coaching with every conversation. Let's get started with today's warm-up.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Doing well.
I'm excited to be here. This is great.
Yeah, I know. Travel and running, my gosh, so much fun. So let's start with the warm-up, okay? Whether a trip is for business or pleasure, us runners are always looking to get a run in on the go. So for our warm-up question today, what is your favorite run you've taken while on the trip? Stephen, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm probably focused most of this around business travel because I do a lot of travel globally for business. And one of the most memorable trips that I have is I was able to go to Australia for work. So that was actually really fun. But while there, you always want to try to run. And one of the things I was able to find, and I didn't find it in advance, so I found it while I was there, was I was able to find a half marathon to be able to jump into. And it was to realize this is a lot long ago, right? So we're talking about like in 2020 or 2005. So, you didn't have GPSs, you didn't have all of these other kind of cool smartphones to be able to do it. So I'm like pulling out maps, trying to figure out how to go do packet pickups. How do I get to the start? You don't have Ubers kind of running around. I wasn't driving there because you're on the opposite side of the road. And so just a lot of challenges, but it was just memorable to be able to jump in, to be able to find something locally that I was there and kind of opened up my eyes to Australia just from a running aspect. So that was just most memorable for me.
It's like the Amazing Race by yourself.
Yeah. Well, in 2005 is what it feels like, right? Smartphones for sure.
That's great. Wait, what do you do for work besides coach and do all the other things?
So I work full time for Corning. I was working on a fiber to the home project in Australia. So we were deploying fiber optics. So that was what we were doing there, and got that opportunity to spend 2 weeks there and be able to do and race in that one weekend in between.
Awesome. I love it. Combining all the things in life.
Yeah.
Okay, EJ, tell us about yours.
Well, I'm a little jealous of Stephen's. I mean, Australia is still on my bucket list, so mine is
Me
not going
too.
to sound anywhere exotic compared to that. But one of my favorite places was actually on the Katy Trail State Park Trail. And this is in Missouri. So my husband and I were traveling from Texas to Illinois to go visit family. We had stopped in Missouri for the night. And the next morning we were trying to figure out a place to run. And we came across this like rails to trails system. And I was blown away. The whole thing is 240 miles long. Like obviously we did not run, but just a small portion of that. But yeah, it's a crushed limestone trail that like follows the Kansas, Missouri, Texas Railroad, or what was formerly the railroad. And it's like right along the Missouri River. It was just gorgeous. And yeah, I mean, clearly you could run for miles and miles. And I was like, man, I wish I had this as my long run every weekend. This is beautiful. So that's probably one of my absolute favorites in the middle of Missouri.
Yeah. I think it's so fun that you found something like that. I mean, yes, obviously Australia sounds so glamorous, right? But I mean, there are some beautiful places to train right kind of in our own neighborhoods. And I think that's been my favorite thing about this whole professional runner type thing that I've been able to live for so long is like I've traveled the world and I mean, I can tell you all the great places I've been to, but really it's my memory goes to where I ran. And like you, Steven, like I used to bring like a big camera with me. Like now it's so nice. We have our cell phones and we can
Yes.
use them for maps and use them for cameras. But when I was racing, I would bring my camera, like a Canon, and it was like a big chunky thing. And I would stop and take pictures because as distance runners, that's one of the perks is we get to actually like be a tourist on the run. So I love that. But for me, one of my favorite runs is my dad named it called Skunk Hollow. And it was just a section around a cornfield in this small little town that I grew up in Dawson, Minnesota, a town of 1,600 people. And it was a mile, each section. So it's 4 miles. Well, actually, I think Skunk Hollow might have been a little bit shorter. But anyway, that brings me back to so many great memories. And I think that's what the sport is all about. It's the memories and it's just the conversations or being out there watching a cow graze across or whatever. You remember those awesome things. So from Australia to little Minnesota, we've got it covered. But we want to hear from our audience too. So if you guys want to answer this question, come on over to all of RunDot social media accounts. We're curious to hear what your favorite run you've taken while on a trip is. Find us on our socials and let us know.
Let's go.
All right, let's get to the main set. This is going to be fun today. I'm so excited to see how you all travel and run. So athletes listening to the RunDot podcast likely have their training plan in mind when they take a trip. I know all of us are thinking about our run 24/7. So let's start with this question. How closely should we attempt to follow the training plan while in travel mode? Who wants to start?
I mean, I'll go ahead and jump in. I mean, and again, I think, we'll have to take the perspective of what are you traveling for? I do most of my travel for business. So most of my context is around the business aspect. But, I mean, you have to also realize that it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, travel in itself is stressful. And you never know, but RunDot can really be your guide for you, right? I mean, you have priority workouts. My recommendation is to try to hit some of those priority workouts, but there's also challenges, and we're going to go into some of those. Like, hey, can you find a place to do it safely? I mean, running a treadmill and doing MAV shuttles is really hard for me, right? So, I mean, you can't do everything, but realizing that what is the intent, right? What are you trying to do? You have to look at where you are in your cycle. Are you in development phase? Are you in race prep phase? I mean, there's all these different aspects. I mean, an example just quickly for me is like I was in race prep phase for an Ironman. I was stuck in China for 3 weeks. I'm having to do like 5-hour bike rides on stationary bikes, and so from that standpoint, you got to adapt. And was it perfect? No. I mean, was I hitting all my zones? No, but I still did the intent of the overall workout. But it really is like making sure that you're balancing that aspect of it. Like, what is the intent? Where are you at in your cycle? Can you do it safely? Is it indoors, outdoors? I mean, it's a lot of different things you have to take in consideration. But really, what I try to say is like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I try to say, hey, if you can get 80%, it's kind of the target. That would be awesome.
And adapting, I think, is the big
Yes.
word that I heard you say. That's something that a lot of athletes struggle with. And that's like being coachable. You got to be able to coach yourself when you're on the road. If you have a coach that's kind of overseeing things, be adaptable. How about you, EJ?
I love what Steven said. I mean, you're really trying to strike that balance between maintaining your training routine, but then as we said, that keyword adapting. You're adapting to the constraints and the stresses of travel. I find travel kind of stressful. And so even if, you're there and you feel like you can get in a run, like you have to take into account how much stress did it incur for you to get there. And are you off of your routine? Did you change time zones? Are you eating differently? Did you not sleep well because the hotel bed is just terrible? And so, I mean, being able to adapt and keep all of those things in mind is super important. I used to be such a stickler for like rigidly sticking to every detail of the plan when I was training. And
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that was to my detriment. it's not always realistic for us to stick so rigidly to the plan, and at times, like, it's not beneficial. We
Hmm.
need to take all of these things, like, in the full context and understand what is going to help us in the long term. The other thing that I just love that, Stephen mentioned is, we're also thinking about what the purpose of the travel was for. And I find with the athletes I coach, that is one of the biggest things that kind of hinges on like how strict are we going to be with the training plan? If it's for work, you probably still, want to try to stick to that training plan a little bit. If it's for fun, if it's with family, like we're probably going to be a little bit more loose. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I've found myself telling my coached athletes very recently is like, don't miss the memories for your training plan. If
Yeah.
you're going on vacation with your family and, the whole family is going to the beach or the whole family's going on a hike, like you don't want to miss those memories because you're like, oh, I needed to get this 30-minute
Hmm.
zone 2 run in. Like, let's make some adjustments. Let's be realistic about like long term. Are you going to be sad 2 weeks from now that you missed the hike with your family because
Yeah.
you were so strict about getting that aerobic run in? So, yeah, lots of things. And I know we're going to dive into that a little more with the upcoming questions.
Yeah. And also I think if you are the travel planner, then we need to make sure that we plan a family workout or a late
It's
morning sleep for someone, like
Mhm.
that might be your role if you're really thinking about what am I going to do? Well, then you have to maybe plan that in. So that kind of leads to this next question. When one of your athletes has a trip coming up, is this something that you talk through before they go on their trip, like what their training will be like, where they can maybe do it, what kind of season are they going in, all those things. So let's talk about how you as coaches would talk to your athlete before they travel.
yeah, I mean, I can go again. I mean, we're probably very similar. I mean, I really try to spend the time. I meet currently every week with my coached athletes, and so we're always talking about the next week and anything that's coming up. I mean, within RunDot, within TriDot, you have the ability to put notes in and kind of
Mhm.
track when somebody's traveling. So I ask all my athletes to tell me if you're doing something, if you're planning, vacation. And I agree 100% with EJ in the sense of saying, hey, if you have that, let's take the time. I mean, you have very limited time with the family in general. And so take the time while you're traveling and spend it with your family while you're trying to do that. But taking those notes, being very purposeful and saying, hey, what do we need to do? Do we need to shift it around? EJ talked about like time zone changes, right? I mean, if you lose a day, right, when you travel going over to Asia, so when you end up losing a day, you got to start shifting everything around. So I work very closely with my athletes, shift that around, to make sure we can fit their schedule, and also from from traveling standpoint, because of that, you may have to say, hey, let's bump everything down also, right? Because
Mhm.
time zone changes are a big challenge, when you end up traveling and you can't always eat well, it's hard sometimes and you can't control it. So I really do spend the time with my athletes, try to talk through that with them. Especially also if it's extended, it becomes even more of an important discussion. I mean, I know there's some different athletes that are going out of town for, or traveling for 2, 3 weeks at a time. And that makes it even harder, right, from a planning aspect to say, hey, what can I do? How do we go and adapt, as we talked about earlier, to what we're physically doing? So, again, yes, spend the time. I really spend the time coaching through that and trying to help the athlete to think through everything and say, hey, did you think about it? Hey, don't forget your water bottle. Don't, I mean, little things like that, you got to make sure you remember and adapting to what is going on with the schedules, what you're doing with travel, where you're going, all of that becomes very important.
Yeah, and some athletes just need their coach, if they do have a coach besides the app, to just tell them exactly or to remind them, like, no, this is what
Yeah.
we're going to do. You know, I I often joke that when I was running a little bit more serious, I had my hand held a lot with my coaches or, an agent or whoever it was. Like I had people sort of like in my ear all the time. And now that I don't necessarily have that, sometimes it's hard to stay on the plan
Sure.
or you kind of need that. So I think that that's important too, is that they have you guys in their ear saying it's okay to take today off, or if you have to switch, we'll switch. The program will switch for you. But Elizabeth, yeah, what do you do? Are you like, no, we're gonna do this before you travel, like lay it all out there for them, or are you kind of on a text with your athletes where they could say maybe I'm going to Central Park, but I didn't get my workout in. What do you do?
Yeah. When one of my coached athletes has a trip coming up, we make it a point to talk through all of that beforehand. I mean, as we've mentioned, traveling can disrupt routines, so it's
Yeah.
really nice to have a plan in place going into it that fits both the travel schedule, their current phase in the training season. If they're further out from a race event and it's a short trip, we might just focus on like maintaining a little bit of consistency while they're there. 2, 3 day conference, maybe we can fit 1 or 2 aerobic runs in. Great. We come back, we're back on the plan. But if they are on an extended trip, I mean, Stephen mentioned there's a number of athletes that will travel internationally for weeks at a time for
Yeah.
work. And if they are frequently traveling and for long periods of time and they are also preparing for a race, then we do get very detailed about what sessions do we need to prioritize? What sessions do we have a little bit more flexibility with? And then how does that fit with their overall travel schedule? I mean, I have one of my athletes that frequently travels for work and he attends a bunch of conferences. And one of the things that he'll do is he will send me the conference schedule. And so he's like, here's the conference schedule. Here are my travel dates. You know the training plan.
Yeah.
How does this all fit together? Because I don't know how we're going to make this happen. And honestly, I love it. It's like a whole big puzzle. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're traveling how many time zones different? Like, these are the conference days. Here's where you've got little pockets of time. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always work out perfectly once he's there.
Yeah.
But it at least gives us a great plan A. And then we're continually like texting or in contact as they're traveling as well, just to really figure out, how did travel go? Did you sleep okay on the plane? Do you feel like you
Mm-hmm.
can get that first session in when you're there? Do we need to bump things around? I think ultimately this comes back to just a lot of open communication
Yeah.
between the athlete and the coach. And for athletes that do have the coach, this is a great way to utilize that coaching relationship and have them help
Mm-hmm.
you manage it. But I know, not all athletes have a coach. And so I think just keeping these tips in mind that a
Yep.
coach would do can help athletes without a coach to think about like, okay, if I go in with a plan, I at least have this outlined of what could happen, and then I might just need to adjust a little bit from there.
I have a new business idea. We just need someone to back it, okay?
Okay.
But I've always wanted to be what I call a running concierge, where I basically tell people how to live and train. I guess that's a coach. But I think what you're doing, EJ, is something that I've dreamed of. Like, people just give me their schedule and they're like, tell me how to logistically live my life so I can get my runs in and make a home cooked meal or, do all the things. So, yeah, if anyone's out there listening that is, an entrepreneur and wants to start a new business, hit EJ and I up. We will figure this out.
Love it. Yes.
Okay. So, when you're traveling and it's like the first time you're going to a certain spot, where to train, that's always like, I am not good with like finding trails. I'm not good with figuring out where the tracks are. Like, usually I just want to go and find an open road and I'll be good, right? But sometimes you just don't know where those are or when to make the decision of going on a treadmill rather than going out. You not know the area. Is it safe? Is it going to be dark? All those things. So, how do you do that with your athletes? Like, tell them where to train.
Yeah, I mean, this is again, I think it's individual. Like you just said, hey, I'm not good at finding it. I mean,
Mhm.
I attempt to do research in advance. I'll
Mhm.
use a real example. Last year, I was in Taiwan, and I'm like, oh man, I got a speed workout. Actually, I had a time trial I was supposed to do that day, that week while I was there, and I'm like, where am I going to go do a time
Yeah.
trial? I hate doing them on treadmills, but you got to do a little bit of research. And that one I was able to find high school track in Taiwan,
Mm.
right? To be
Mhm.
able to go and run. I found somebody else that happened to work with me that was a runner also, and he's like, "Hey, well, you can go do this. They open at this time, because
Oh,
it's
nice.
20s." And so it was a little bit harder, but I was able to go and to be able to go do that. I mean, I would recommend. I mean, if you're not playing with ChatGPT, right? I mean, it's a perfect thing just to say, "Hey, I'm traveling here. This is where I'm staying." It will start recommending. Is it perfect? No, but you can go in and look at options to be able to do that. I mean, I also kind of look for, because sometimes I'm having to go to a hotel where my work is sending me, and it maybe doesn't even have a treadmill, or they open
Hmm.
at 8 a.m., right? And
Yeah.
I need to work out before. I also, in the US, as a member of the YMCA, I research where all the YMCAs are. So it gives me a
Mm.
lot more options,
Yep.
specifically as a triathlete, swimming, and even trying to get a better stationary bike sometimes
Yep.
than recumbent. But looking at all of those options, I mean, if you're a 24/7 fitness person, you can do the same thing, right? You can go to any of those. There's a lot of those. It's a little bit harder overseas,
Hmm.
but try to do the research. Look at your hotel. What do they have available? If you have a choice, you can make that decision. Hey, go to this hotel versus the other, because they have a 24/7 gym versus one that
Exactly.
you can't do it. That you can't get into until 8, and so looking at those things, I think, are really important. I do also look at, I mean, same example as Taiwan. I found that school, found there was a track there by looking at the maps. I also found a little park that I could go, and it's different in Asia than in the US, but they end up having a lot of the elderly folks go and walk all the time,
Yeah.
right? And that was an opportunity that I was able to go out there. It was safe because I knew
Yeah.
other people were going to be out there looking at
Hmm.
all those other aspects. I mean, you hit the nail though. I mean, sometimes you can't find parks, you can't find schools. And so even like using satellite views of maps can show
Hmm.
you where the sidewalks are at least.
Hmm.
And so that becomes another option to look, because you do need to be safe, right? I mean,
Yep.
any place that you're going, trying to do that. I mean, keep maps off of Strava. You can go on Strava anywhere in the world and just look and see, and they will plot where you are, and they will show you different run routes that people have done. So that
Hmm.
at least shows you where you can go and run. I happened to be in California, and I was able to, go down to the wharf and run along the waterway down and at the wharf. And so that was like a great opportunity for me to do that. Did something similar in Japan, right? So I was able to find, exactly the big memorial Barton area, and they had a big loop around it, right? And so
Cool.
I think it's just continuing to look, but you got to do it in advance. It's harder when you get there because the stress of traveling is always there. The other, maybe other quick, is I've had go to, if you're in a new hotel, ask the front desk. There are
Hmm.
more and more hotels that actually have little printouts that they'll give you for running runs. Sometimes, or even going to local running stores, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's actually how I found Fleet Feet before we opened up one, was running with a running group at a local running store, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of different options, and you just got to be open minded to say, hey, what do you want to go do? Do you want to be with groups? Do you want to be, in a park? I think it's just there. It's just doing the research.
Yeah. And I think just to piggyback on your ask the front desk, if you stay at Weston's, they
Yes.
sometimes have, I think they still have that run program where they give New Balance shoes and an outfit if you forgot your running shoes. Like, how cool is that? So, just hit them up. They might not have a pair of running shoes for you. It's hard sometimes to ask for some toothpaste, but you never know. So the front desk definitely is a good tool to have. How about you, EJ?
Well, I wish I was as good at looking at maps as
I
Steven.
know,
I'll
me
be
too.
honest. All my friends and my family will know I am terrible with direction. You get me outside of my neighborhood and I will get lost. It doesn't matter if
It's
I've
sort
done
of
the
the
running
best
route.
thing to do though on a run. It sort of
I mean,
is.
true. They
Hmm.
they sometimes turn a little longer than, the
Yes.
session is prescribed, but
Yep.
it's beautiful. So no, I mean, if you're great with maps, utilize all of that. I'm terrible with maps. I will look at it ahead of time and I will still get lost. I will not know where I'm going. And so one of the things that I've really utilized is looking up local running clubs
Mm-hmm.
because not only can they provide routes, but I'll be like, "Hey, when are your runs? Because I need that personal tour guide. Can I
Yeah.
jump into one of your sessions?" And that has been absolutely fantastic just to
Yeah.
hook up with a local running community and do that. And I'm going to put a big plug in here too. Our RunDot community is fantastic. I mean, if you just use the, social connections that we have through everybody else that's using RunDot to train, like there's a good
Mm.
likelihood that you can not only meet up with, your personal guide for whatever city you're going to, but maybe, if they can't run with you, they can at least provide a safe
Yeah.
route. And so I would highly recommend just reaching out and saying like, "Hey, I'm going here for work," or "Hey, I'm going here for vacation." Who
Mm-hmm.
lives nearby, who can offer a route, like, are there any running groups that I can be a part of? And I think that, you'll be surprised with how accommodating people will be either with routes or a run partner. And I mean, talk about what a great way to get to know somebody like as you're traveling. So I would highly recommend that, especially if you're like me and will get lost without a little bit of a guide.
So
I
tell us
don't
a
know.
little bit about, oh yeah, Stephen, go ahead. And then I want to
Yeah,
kind of piggyback on that.
I think there's some new stuff about that to get rolled out, right, with the app that may even be even more beneficial to kind of create those linkages. So keep your eyes open for some of that stuff too.
Yes.
I think
So
Yeah,
that's
that
some new
social
stuff's
connection
coming.
coming.
Like,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
so if right now though, you were saying you reach out to people on the social aspect of RunDot, how do they do that?
With the, like, RunDot Facebook community, and,
In
we also
Facebook.
have that. Yeah, we have, some Facebook opportunities, also within Circle. So the RunDot community within that Circle platform, there's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of connections and community forums that are happening there right now. And so, yeah, if you're not connected on that, like, maybe we can drop that into the show notes or something, like, definitely get connected. It's not only great to talk about your training, what races are coming up, who else is doing that race, but then, yeah, the day-to-day training, travel, it's just going to be a great resource.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and actually you can connect to that through your app, right? So
Mhm.
there is a connection in the app on your phone to be able to connect to the circle group and
Okay.
to get access to it. So that's a perfect opportunity and to do that. And I'll tell you, I mean, I stay in contact with folks and I didn't even think about it in the response, but it is like if you're going to place new, reach out and you may be able to have somebody to even train with, just for a
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah. I mean, how fun would it be to like do that every trip? Find a new RunDot
Mhm.
friend? We've talked a little bit about this, but one of the questions that we had was, when you're going to a new place, okay, obviously we got to figure out where we're going to train, but we don't always know about what the food options are going to look like or what the weather could do, all of that stuff. So, are you planning for that beforehand or are you sort of just winging it? I mean, I know that I used to travel, especially when I would go over to Asia. I loved the food over there, but they did serve a lot of like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, things like that. So I would, or if I was in Russia, we actually raced quite a bit. They don't race there as much anymore, but we used to race over there, or like we were in Hungary. Like we were in all kinds of different places where I just didn't know what the food would taste like. So I would bring just like squeezable peanut butter and squeezable jelly and some bagels and have them in my carry-on or in my check bag, I guess, just to be safe. Like, do you guys recommend that for your athletes?
I'll jump in on this one first. Yeah. I mean, when traveling to a new place, there's definitely those key things that I like to scout out ahead of time just to avoid the surprises, stay as prepared as possible. And first thing is checking the weather forecast. I may not be as good with maps, but I know how to check the weather forecast. I feel like I can prepare for the weather, packing the right gear, at least
Yeah.
packing a number of layers. And then just kind of getting an idea of the terrain as well. Now, most of the time that's based off of like a recommendation from somebody local, but
Mhm.
just kind of getting a sense of, is this a hilly area? Is this a flat area? One of the things that's super helpful for me is plugging in the location that I'm going to be traveling into the RunDot app. And so I can
Oh.
also get a sense, and this has caught me off guard before, so now I know better. Like if I'm going to a place with high altitude, and so
Mhm.
like traveling to Colorado or like around Tahoe, it's like, oh gosh, okay, let's keep in mind that my pacing is going to be a little bit different here because I'm at altitude and I am not
Yes.
acclimated to that. And then yes, nutrition. That's a huge thing. I feel like always like half of my checked bag is food. So I always get like slightly embarrassed if my like bag has to be checked or something at the checkout counter and they're like looking at things, and it's so much food. I have it in my carry-on, I have it in my checked bag, just because I'm kind of picky. And so I
Yeah.
love trying new foods when I'm there, but in terms of what I need when I'm training, yeah, like bread, peanut butter, applesauce is
Yep.
great. I pack all of like my electrolytes, my gels, and that can make a big difference for me. It's just kind of a comfort thing as well
Mhm.
that I know that I'm at least going to be able to fuel my workouts.
Yeah. Our metabolisms are fast. So, when you're on the airplane and you don't have something or those sun chips just don't quite cut it every single time, you got to have stuff with you. How about you, Steven?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna flip it because I think I just traveled. I saw EJ down at Little Elm this past week.
Fun.
And I've been in for work in advance, right? But I was actually getting ready, and this is the discussion, where are you at in the phase of training?
Hmm.
You may need to be taking on more food than you typically would do, that would just be going out to a local restaurant.
Hmm.
And again, you have to look at that holistically, but I'm very similar to EJ in the sense of, I'll try to pack stuff that I know I could eat, that I can easily get to. I mean, one of the challenges with traveling overseas is, like, you don't know when you're waking up at times, right? I mean, you're
Right.
waking up at 3 a.m. and you're not going to go find a restaurant open,
Yeah.
right? So I need to have those extra bars or something to eat, especially before I go and get ready to work out, or something a little bit more. And so, yes, I try to at least plan. I do similar to you, Carrie. Like, I try to eat some of the local food, but
Hmm.
you need to make sure you can, right? I mean, and I'm just gonna pick on Korea, like kimchi. Some people can't eat kimchi, right? They
Right.
don't just can't manage something like that. And so, okay, what are you going to eat? What is it going to look like? Well, every meal, I shouldn't say every, you can go to some restaurants, but like most meals, especially when a US person travels over to, to Asia, they want to take you to like a formal Asian restaurant, right? And so every single time you sit down, you're having kimchi, or you're having raw fish, or you're doing things like that. So you need to just balance that and make sure you're aware, and then plan in advance. It's probably more than just a carry on of food, right? But,
Yeah.
having truly, food packaged so you can kind of bring it over there and at least get through. But I would also just point out, I mean, most, especially traveling wise, and then when you just use overseas in Asia for all the most Americans, right? It's pretty different. And so, but most, kind of 5-star hotels are very kind of, they have international cuisines a lot of times, and especially breakfast becomes one of those. And I
Yeah.
really load up on the breakfast because they typically still have the bread, they're having the eggs, they're having that,
Hmm.
and they have all of the others, like dumplings, or even
Yep.
raw fish or whatever. And so it just gives you an opportunity. And I do try to make sure I'm getting my bananas and I'm doing things like that, and I'll take a little bit extra out on that in that morning, so I have it for the rest of the day also. So
Yeah.
again, just some other thoughts.
It's so fun to try all the different foods, but you're right. Like, it is never fun to be tired, which most of the time you are when you're traveling, and hungry. It is not cool to be hungry. So just pack those extra snacks, or
Yep.
find, if you're, most oftentimes you can find grocery stores and things like that, but it is the time difference sometimes where our bodies are off schedule. So you have to make sure you have those middle of the night snacks that, you wake up at 3 a.m., can't go back to sleep, and you're ravenous. So, um,
Yes.
next question is, once you have some great locations sorted, the next challenge is finding the best time, as we're kind of talking about this. This is hard, especially when you're tired or your sleep pattern's all off. The normal routine is not normal at all. So, how do you advise your athletes to figure out the right time to go for their training?
Yeah, I'll give maybe my experiences, and I'm going to use international travel because I think it's the harder of it,
Hmm.
right? When you're doing massive time zone jumps, and the 6 hour time zone jumps are really the hardest, right? Because you're not fully flipping, and
Yeah.
if you're going backwards or forwards, depending on what direction you're going. But one of the things that is said with helping with sleeping is staying on a routine, right? If you can get back to your routine, I find exercising helps that, right? So if you're an early morning person, getting out there, getting back onto your routine, it will help your clock flip quicker, right? And I think you just did a call right on sleeping right the other day,
Yeah.
uh, and so I think trying to do that, getting back into that routine as fast as you can help. Now it doesn't always work because you may have different things that you have to attend, but I force myself if I have to get up super early the next day and not get a lot of sleep. I try to get myself onto my routine. I'm an early person, so it's a
Mm.
little easier so I can jump that in before I'm actually having to go work.
Yeah.
Now, if you're having to work and you're always doing everything at 2, you may not, or 2 p.m., you may not be able to go do that. But if you're running early, I'd recommend try to jump on that as soon as possible. And I tell my athletes the same thing is try to create a routine because that routine will help everything else with the sleep patterns and all of that, especially if you're doing international travel and time zone differences.
Hmm. EJ, how about you?
Th that's such great advice, Stephen, and I think one of the things that I found too is that even if athletes aren't typically like an early morning training person, um, it it usually allows for the best consistency while they're traveling if they get up and train in the morning. That's just the protected time, and it seems like even athletes that would usually train in the evening, if they're traveling for a work conference, I mean, they're exhausted after the work conference, and
Yes.
it's kind of like a rule of thumb where it's like you get done with the conference and you've got about 15 minutes before the group's going to dinner. Like, you're not gonna have enough time to get your workout in there too. And so even if you're not like an early morning workout person, I really encourage my athletes to try to do it in the morning when that time is still open, it's protected. And yeah, using that as kind of like a key for the body to set that circadian rhythm with whatever time zone
Hmm.
you're in has been super helpful too. There's just something about like getting up, seeing the sunlight, getting the exercise in that's going to help jumpstart that adaptation and get you on that new time zone routine.
Mm.
And I think that that has been great. Now, I mean, if you're traveling for fun and you've got the flexibility and you can sleep in and eat breakfast and, lounge at the beach and do an afternoon stroll, like fantastic. But I think more often than not, I encourage athletes to get it up, get it done in the morning, whether that's for business or for family, because then
Yeah.
you've got the rest of the day open. You're not stressed about what else is going to come up.
I agree. I mean, the only time that is really hard is if you are trying to network late at night, which I almost think after 9 p.m. is the networking really happening anyway. So like, and and
No.
also people are gonna just kind of think you're a rock star for saying, you know what, I'm gonna get up early and get my workout in, so I'm gonna head to bed early. Like that's
Mhm.
okay. You're goal driven people, right? But also with family, like my husband and his family. I love them all so much, but they love to play card games or board games until the wee hours. And I am like, no, I can't. First of all, I can't. My body just cannot. And second of all, they know I'm a happier person because I want to get up and run and I like doing that. So they don't really bother me after 9 p.m. If I'm done, I'm done. And so I think too, like that's okay. It's a good excuse. It's almost like when you have babies, when you have to go take a nap with them. It's a good excuse. So use your excuses and just own them.
One of the other things, I mean, EJ talked about conferences. I try to recruit people at conferences to go work out in the mornings,
Yeah.
right? So it almost forces them to be able to go do that, right? So bring
Yeah.
people along. I mean, it makes it fun, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing other groups there, going out for a little run. I mean, not everybody can do that, but getting them out there also kind of helps
Hmm.
that. So you can get that done and get it scheduled in. So just maybe another small trick with work. If you're doing it as a conference or you're doing group stuff with
Yeah.
work, individually it's a little bit harder, but with groups, it makes it something you can do.
Okay, let's talk equipment. We've kind of touched on nutrition a little bit, but what do we bring when we're racing, and traveling, working and traveling, or do we leave it at home when we're going on, for a trip that's just for pleasure? Like, what do you guys talk to your athletes about for equipment?
I'm gonna let Steven go first on this one because I know he's got a rule that is, like, gold, and I don't wanna
Oh,
steal his thunder.
Steven's
So,
golden
Yeah,
rule.
yeah, the
Steven's golden
carry,
rule, here we
carry,
go.
well, right? If it's something you don't want to lose, carry it on, right? I mean, that
Yes.
I mean, it's hard sometimes, especially, as a triathlete, it's harder to bring everything that you can on. But as a runner, I mean, I always carry my shoes on. I
Hmm.
carry at least one pair of shorts and one shirt. Now, granted, I haven't been staying at Weston, so I like that idea. Maybe I can get some shoes, but but I try to carry the major things on. I mean, I always carry my own hydration also, so I use Noon or pH precision hydration. And so they're effervescent. So I keep those in my carry-on bag anyway.
Yep.
I actually my computer bag, so it just makes it even easier. But carry on. I mean, keep a little kit together of the basic necessities. Like, I mean, I have my Garmin in there. I keep my Stride part pad pod in there. I keep, my heart rate monitor in there. I also always carry a headlamp, right? As one
Oh,
that I
so
always have
good.
to be able to have it. So you, again, don't know how dark it is. I mean, some countries don't have the street lights always, and so
Hmm.
having something like that just to be safe. And I always keep my shoes handy. So
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
EJ,
I
you have
I
any
knew
other?
Steven had to go first. I totally agree with carry on, but I didn't wanna steal his thunder. Um, this is something actually so I have this little, like, running kit basically, even in my car because I
Hmm.
I always just want to be prepared, like, if I, am running late for something and I'm able to get a run in or whatever, and so it makes it super easy for me. I've already got basically that little bag ready to go. It fits right in the carry-on. Love the, recommendation of the headlamp. That
Mm.
I always have because again, you don't know what the light conditions are gonna be. The other thing that I will add there, because I know from experience, is sunscreen.
Oh.
Whether it's a warm location or higher altitude, I've unfortunately been in that situation where I felt like I had everything ready for the run and did, except I came back quite the lobster color. So we're gonna add sunscreen to that little carry-on bag as well.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, the headlamp is so good for running, but also if you have people in your room and you have to study or prep for the next day, that allows them to sleep and you to still work. But I do agree. One of my tips is that, and I learned this from my dad, but if you have an outfit that's getting a little bit, old or stinky or whatever, that you are okay with bringing, I put that in my carry on and then I'll leave it at the hotel, along with, like, a pair of shoes that maybe only has 3 or 4 more runs in it. I will bring those with me too and then leave that at the hotel as well. So, making sure that the equipment you bring doesn't always have to be the most up to date because sometimes you don't wanna be traveling with stinky clothes back, or you don't wanna travel with shoes that are, on their way out. So those are items that sometimes I will just bring on a quick trip and just not feel so bad leaving them in the hotel room or donating them somehow. Um, I love all this. This is so fun. I wanna go on a trip. I was
Yeah,
thinking about
I
this
feel
though,
like we
Steven.
need to
You're
go on a trip just to test out all of these, features.
Yes, and I
See
travel,
if
like,
there's
every
anything we
week, but I
missed.
still think
Yeah.
it's fun to try to coordinate it all. Steven, I was thinking it was funny how you were talking about going overseas and having the time change be hard on you, but you know what? The other day, I was in Atlanta, and I'm from the Midwest, so I live on Central Time, but then I was on East Coast time for a couple days for an event, and then I went to West Coast time for another 3 days, and staying right here in the States isn't always easy. I mean,
correct.
I was all over the place and I got home to this, and also it was daylight savings. So then I was such a mess. And I feel like I've been overseas. I still am like just starting to get my sleep pattern back. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the US, I mean, like I traveled to Texas. I'm on the East Coast, and I traveled to Texas last week, and I attempt to sort of stay on my current schedule, right?
Yeah.
Not in the whole hour, so I'm not upsetting everything.
Yep.
But it is a little bit harder. Like, I mean, I typically am running at 4:30, so 3:30 is a little
Mhm.
early
It
sometimes to be up.
is.
So, but it's just different ways to manage through it. But it is hard, just all
Yeah.
travel. Get older,
Yeah,
it makes it harder, right?
for sure.
Now the app
Um,
name is totally escaping me right now. I'll have to find what it is, but one of the things that I have a lot of my athletes do is actually use an app if they are
okay.
going to be traveling, especially for a race, and use that to help like adjust their sleep patterns a little bit ahead of time. And that makes the time
Oh,
zone change so much easier. And so,
yeah.
it's just small increments that they're adjusting. Now, obviously, if you're traveling like for a vacation, a one-off, like maybe not that big of a deal. If you're traveling all the time for work, it might be tricky to like manage all of that. But then again,
Yeah.
maybe you're the person that really needs that app to manage all those time zone changes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a number of apps out there, but yeah, let's just put that out there as a recommendation too.
Yeah, check for an app like that.
Such, yeah, great resources out there that can help, a little bit with that time zone travel and sleep changes.
Again, this is why we need running concierge.
Yes.
Okay. So, some trips are more conducive to training than others, but if an athlete needs you to help them prioritize certain workouts, how do you do that? Or have you tell them how to cut back? Or even above that, like what does RunDot do when the app sees that you haven't quite been getting in what you're supposed to get in?
Yeah, this is awesome. And like a number of questions folded into this.
I know. Sorry, I
I
can't
think
help myself.
that's okay. It's like, ooh, let's talk about this and this. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so much good stuff. Yeah, when travel limits the number of workouts that you can get in, I would say that it's really important to prioritize the quality over the quantity. And
Hmm.
so I always recommend focusing on the key sessions. I mean, that's really where you're going to maximize your fitness. You're going to maintain the training stimulus without requiring as much time. So yeah, if you can't get in everything, let's look at those key sessions. And what's great about RunDot is you can look at the execution points that are distributed throughout the week, and that will easily tell you which of those workouts you should prioritize. So the
Okay.
ones that have the most execution points, let's try to get those in. Okay. If they don't have as many execution points, if that's an aerobic run that's just 30 minutes, that's not going to be worth like as much. And so let's just prioritize those higher execution point workouts. And that's really going to help you determine what should be done. I really think that, this is about maintaining the core elements of the training plan throughout the week rather than just trying to squeeze in every workout. And, if you're able to at least maintain a little bit of consistency, get in some of those higher intensity sessions, when you get back from the travel, you're going to be able to pick up like right where you left off. You're not going to
Hmm.
feel like you're behind or that you've missed more because you've gotten that great training stimulus in.
Yeah. Steven, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, she hit it exact. I mean, there are times though, and I use map shuttles because they're hard to be able to go do. And can you find a place to be able to go do it? Because that's going to be high XP points for sure.
Mm,
And but you may not be able to do them. And we'll go in there. I mean, consistency is probably even more important, right?
yeah.
So trying to do something is better than nothing.
Mm,
So yes, if you can prioritize the higher XP points, that is exactly what you want to do. Now you also ask the question like what happens if you
hmm.
can't? So let's say you end up going and all you can do is zone 2 heart rate and you can only do 20 minutes because of your schedule, right? RunDot is going the AI is going to start adjusting, right? So it measures all of that stress throughout and it will try to now build you from that stress. Now, the thing you shouldn't be stressing about independently is like you're not going to lose fitness, right? I mean, if you ended up missing 3 days, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose it. Yes, we're A-type personalities, but we don't want to miss it. But it is okay. It actually may even be better for you to get some of that recovery from the travel, from all the other stresses that aren't being measured in RunDot, to be able to go and manage that. So I mean, I think balance, if you can prioritize exactly as EJ stated, yes, do that. If you can't, also be comfortable with just doing 20 minutes or doing something to be able to keep that the heart going, right? Even if it's just all zone two. So, I mean, I think it's just you got to have that ability to adjust,
Yeah.
right? And being agile a little bit to be able to do that also.
Do you know my secret is the 20-minute run? I only had 20 minutes this morning and I went out and hammered. I was definitely not in the right zone, but I was going for it. And I only had 20 minutes, so I did it. But I swear, I mean, I feel like if anyone has the opportunity to just move their body for 20 minutes, they will be better for it and they will feel better. So, like, don't always think that because you can't get in that 60-minute run or that 50-minute run or the hour and 30-minute run, that 20 minutes isn't worth it. It's worth it. Just go get a sweat in. I remember Dan O'Brien, the Olympic gold medalist from the decathlon back in the 80s, 90s, 96, I think. Anyway, he would say to me, because we do some commentary together, he'd say, Carrie, I just need to go get my sweat on. I got to go clear my brain, get my sweat on. And, he would come back in a 15, 20 minutes even sometimes, but he just needed to get that adrenaline rush. So, don't forget that. Like, moving your body just for a little bit goes a long ways. Speaking of that, though, is it okay just to blow it off? Like, is it okay to just be like, I have been walking all over this city and I'm exhausted. I don't want to go for my run. Or, I'm just having fun eating all of the fried food and I feel like crap, but I'm having a blast on this boardwalk in Oceanside or wherever it is. Like, do you guys as coaches get mad at the athletes, or are you like, no, go live a little?
Oh, I would definitely wouldn't get mad. I mean, there are certainly times and places where
Mhm.
like it's actually smarter to take a break from training.
Yeah.
It might be better than trying to fit everything in and risking like burnout. I mean, if you're just
Mhm.
exhausted from training, like major life events like family vacations, holidays, or really demanding work trips can come with a lot of stress, disrupted
Yeah.
routines, limited time. Sometimes the best choice for your overall well being is to pause your training. And
Yeah.
whether that's because things are stressful and not going well, or things are fantastic and awesome and you don't want to miss out on what the whole rest of the family is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got both ends of it there, and both are legitimate reasons to not train.
Yeah.
Um, I, I mean, I put, a lot of trust in my athletes and how they feel as well.
Mm.
Like, yes, I am there to guide them and to be a sounding board and to offer recommendations. But
Mhm.
ultimately, like, it comes down to how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And if they're like, I just couldn't do it, I was exhausted, or you know what, today I didn't want to do it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Like, and usually it's a short period of time. And then we can talk about what that looks like getting back into training, depending on how long the break was.
Mhm.
One of the things that, I mean, Steven said in that last response that I think is golden, that a lot of athletes should hang on to, is like taking time off in situations like that doesn't mean losing all your fitness. It's more often than not giving your body and mind a chance to recover and reset, and you're not going to like come back after 4 or 5 days or even a week and a half and be like,
Yeah.
I'm so out of shape. Now, granted, that first run back, you might like mentally be thinking that. But I promise you haven't. Like, it's
Mhm.
still there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, there are times where not stressing about the structured workouts, not stressing about like any training can really just allow you to engage with other important moments in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all love running, but I can guarantee you there's been times that all three of us have taken a break from it and it's
Yes.
been okay. And just think about the big picture. Think of it as like a necessary part of like your overall running journey, not a
Mm.
setback. Like, yeah, you
Mhm.
took a step back for a temporary period of time, but it's not a setback. Like, you are going to be fine coming
Yep.
back. There's plenty of other runs in the future.
Mhm. I totally agree. And I always think like missing something is okay. Like not missing it like in the physical way, but actually like emotionally missing the sport is good for us. And I don't know if we do that as often as we should. Have ebbs and flows in training, and sometimes a forced break over a vacation is the perfect time to do it. How about you, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, EJ said it very well. I mean, I'll reiterate. I mean, you can't just continue doing that, right? And she said about feel. I mean, that's part of the thing that we as coaches is making sure it's not just a laziness feel, right?
Yeah.
But really, saying, hey, is it really something that is a recovery aspect? Is it, from the mental side or from the physical side? But you do want to attempt to try to keep something. But I mean, missing a few days because of extensive, hours with family, maybe you're at a wedding, I mean, these are events that will never come back. And
Right.
so taking the time there, but also be purposeful, like what is that comeback? And making sure that is planned and like, hey, what is that coming there? I mean, you jokingly said, hey, just go eat all you didn't say bonbons, but like eating all the bonbons
Ooh,
you want,
that
right?
sounds
I
good.
mean, those are maybe where you want to kind of like, okay, if I know I can't and you have a race coming up or something, you may say, hey, let me maybe kind of reevaluate just maybe all of my eating if I can't get the workouts in, but
Yeah.
just something to kind of think through. But it is okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think you got to tell yourself that, and it's hard. I'll be honest, right? I mean, it's always even hard for myself to be able to say, yes, it's okay not to work out. I have to give myself that permission,
Yeah.
but you got to do it.
And speaking of bonbons, I mean, you can have, if maybe you don't have 12, but you could have like, some, just cut back a little bit,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, do you ever recommend to your athletes to just leave their shoes at home? I mean, I remember Kara Goucher and Adam Goucher. Those two are Olympic runners, and they would go on a vacation every year during their heavy training and racing times and actually leave their running shoes at home. So they didn't run. They didn't have the temptation. They were supposed to just go and get away from it. And I thought that was brilliant because I love the run. And if I have my shoes, I'm probably going to just sneak out, even if I'm supposed to take the week off. So do you guys ever say, just don't? Like, I'm telling you to not run.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's times, number one, at the end of a season, right, when you're going
Yeah.
through the cycle of the season, it's perfect to be able to go do that, really giving yourself that recovery, both mentally and physically. The other thing is, I mean, as a coach, and I think even as self-coached athletes, you need to make sure, like, okay, am I really overextending? Right. And there's data that's in RunDot that you can go and look at. You can kind of research, but you can look at, hey, am I really overextending? And if you see yourself overextending, truly taking that time off, as EJ stated, is something that like is really maybe the best thing for you.
Yep. I love that. EJ, anything else on that?
Well, I'm just like, now I've got a new idea. Like I've told athletes, don't bring your watch. Like, I don't want to see
Yeah.
any Garmin data from this week. But now I'm like, we're going to take this to the next level and be like, no shoes allowed. You
Yeah.
can't bring your running shoes.
I know. It's
Yeah,
kind of like, I would think that would be really hard because I love to
I
run on
know. I'm like, man,
vacation.
is that more stressful or is that relaxed? I don't know. I'm going to give that one some more thought. But I feel like
Yeah.
I got another little like tip in my coaching toolbox
Yeah.
now. Like, we're going another level, not just no Garmin, but hey, no shoes. So,
Yeah. I mean, you could still do yoga. You could still get in the
yes.
pool and do
Yeah.
a pool run. Like, there's other options.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Well, let's get to our cool down question. I'm super excited for this one because I think it's a really good one. And we constantly are thinking about what we're wearing and how to keep them fresh, our feet or our shoes on our feet fresh. So Tyler wrote in and he said, I don't have fancy carbon race shoes. I prefer to keep it simple and train and race in the same shoes. I'm the same, Tyler. And I replace them regularly. I have a race coming up that has an expo and a few days of events leading up to the actual race. Is it worth packing a second shoe to wear around all of the events to stay off my main shoes before the race? Or does it do no harm to pack the one pair and wear them everywhere, including on race day? So, what do you guys think? Pack one pair and wear them everywhere or have a walk around shoe and a race shoe?
I know for me, like when I have a shoe that I love, and especially if it's on sale, I will buy like 3 or 4 pairs. And so it's very typical that I will wear the same brand of shoe, the same model of shoe, like as my kick it around and my running shoe.
Yep.
So it might be like a pair that looks identical. But one of the things that I found super beneficial is like if I've got, those 2 pairs of it or 3 pairs of it, basically when that shoe is worn out from running, it becomes my walk around shoe. And
Yeah.
so I still have that shoe, but it's now like they almost go from like, okay, this is my running shoe. Now it's my walk around shoe. Now it's my go run errands at the grocery store. And then it becomes like lawn care. So the
Yeah.
shoe
Yeah.
gets like a lot of life, but I know exactly like what phase of that shoe it's in.
Right.
So I definitely recommend like, yeah, you need a different pair of shoes to walk around in the expo than you're going to race in. Maybe it's just the pair that you've been wearing for the last couple months. Now
Yeah.
that's your walk around shoe and you get refreshed for race day.
Yep. That's the shoe that I might leave in the hotel room. The one that's getting close
Yes.
to, I'd say getting close to lawn care, actually. I wear my shoes a lot. And I also wash my shoes. People think that's so crazy, but I like a clean pair of shoes that I wear, and I will just put them in the wash on gentle cycle, and then I let them air out. And I know that not everyone says they should do that, but I have been a runner for I don't even know how many years. And since I was 12 years old, and we've always washed my shoes and they've been fine. So I'm just telling you, you don't have to walk around in muddy, gross shoes. You can have them look halfway decent if they're really worn.
Thanks for listening to the RunDot podcast. Help us out by leaving a rating and review on your listening platform of choice. For more opportunities to learn from our coaches, check out our YouTube channel and follow RunDot Training on social. Ready to train with us? Head to rundot.com and get started for free. Until next time, happy training.